Yo, 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 we are live for the last NFT show of the year, and I'm very excited to have Evan Luzer from Cool Cats on the show with us. Evan, congratulations on an amazing year. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
We also have Simon Wan, the famous Simon Wan, actor, director, musician, writer, author, NFT analyst / skeptic. Swanee, what have you been up to?
I have been in Budapest, which I found out.
What were you doing in Budapest?
Trying to get in a jacuzzi in the hotel, but there was always this big fat dude with the hairy back, and like every time I went there, he was in there hogging it, and I'm like,
he was just waiting for you.
Yeah, well, I just didn't. I want it on my own. Do you know what I mean? But no, I was out there shooting I guess I can say TV show.
You can say it now. Yeah, it's out and about.
Yeah, called The Continental. It's a spin-off of Jonathan Wick. He's an antiques dealer from Margate. And he gets his dog stolen, and he goes on a rampage.
Spoiler, Keanu Reeves, John Wick. Who else is in the Continental?
Ben Thompson from Animal Kingdom and Vikings is playing Frankie, who's one of the main leads. We've got Katie from Supergirl, who's playing. I can't say too much, but there's a good mix of Mel Gibson.
Only Mel Gibson.
Melly Mel, yeah. So he's.
So this is the John Wick spin-off TV show that's going out on Stars. Is that right?
Not until Q1 23. So it's going to be a little bit of a wait.
God, that's a long way away.
Yeah, but they've got to shoot 2 other movies, so I think they're wrapped in June.
So, question for you: if you're on set with these preeminent culture makers, have they heard of NFTs? Is there any talk of what we're doing?
I was giving it some of that, and the lay of the land is they kind of know about it. They know about apes, they know about punks, and they know.
When you say they, who do you mean though?
Some of the cast members, the showrunner. I was talking to Kirk Ward about it. Albert Hughes. I wanted to mention it to Albert Hughes, the director, but he was kind of busy. But no, I was chatting to Ben Robson about it a lot, and it's something that a lot of people want to get into. They don't know what it is, but they know it's kind of cool. And the funny thing is, a lot of the people that I spoke to on set, that makeup girls, and because I was bigging it up with my Bored Ape story because it's great, they're not so keen on the flip. They just want to get in on something that's cool, you know what I mean, and have something that's cool. So the whole notion of just buying to flip, the flipperoonie, buying, sweeping the floor, all that isn't an issue for them. They're just thinking, oh, this is cool. Everyone's talking about it. How do I get it? So I know Keanu Reeves has publicly sort of guffawed at NFTs the other day, didn't he, in an interview? Just chuckled at it. It was like bullshit.
Give him a week.
Exactly.
I kind of feel like if they made John Wick now, it wouldn't be his dog. It'd be his ape. It'd be an NFT or his cool cat. He's like, oh, mate, I've got to go and track it down.
Yeah, definitely his cat. Come on.
Generic Eastern European baddies. Evan, Cool Cats has had an incredible year. Yeah. I'll get onto some more of what Swanee was talking about, but I just want to get your thoughts on how on earth it has been for you being the blue cat people.
The blue cat, blue chip. Yeah, we're trying to solidify our spot as worthy of being the blue chips. We got the punks, the apes, and we'd like to think cats are third up and coming. But it's been a whirlwind. It's just a surreal, like, the NFTs are just the inception point for where we're launching the brand of Cool Cats. But the intention of growing the IP is, into gaming, into merch, into animated series, like so many different other facets of growing IP. So we started in NFTs, and we have other offerings soon to come. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with pets. Every Cool Cat holder is going to be able to claim an egg, and you can hatch an egg to it'll hatch into a pet. A pet is one of 4 different elements, which is fire, water, earth, or air. So we have a whole roadmap of gamified ecosystem that's heavily tied into NFTs. But it's the space itself is just, I feel like such a meme saying it, but like, we are so early, you know what I mean? Like, this is the Wild West, where we're in the frontier position of, like, we get to define how we collectively as a community want to shape what this is. This is very akin to like the birth of the next internet kind of thing. It's very like the potential is limitless, I think. So we've had a successful last year, going in the new year strong as well. But it's like one day in crypto land is like a year. You look at Twitter and you're like, what I missed last night, what celebrity bought this and what company endorsed this, and it's just like trying to keep up with the now, which is a beautiful thing, but it's pretty chaotic. But I think we all love the chaos, honestly.
Yeah, I think we do. And I think with Cool Cats, you guys really came out of nowhere. It was such a crazy kind of genesis from being a project that was in danger of maybe being forgotten or being overlooked, and then suddenly out of nowhere. Can you kind of just talk us through that sale and then the ramp up into what Cool Cats has now become?
Yeah, well, so Klon, the illustrator behind Cool Cats, he'd been working on the character Blue Cat. So Blue Cat is the base character. Every Cool Cat that you see is derived from Blue Cat, and it was a character he'd been working on for over 10 years. And we actually went to design school together back in Georgia. So he was a good friend of mine for many, many years. And this was just sort of like his baby he'd been working on. And, he would sell prints of it in art shows, and he'd paint them on walls and murals and stuff. But he sort of fell out of love with pursuing the brand. He was going by the Cartoonist at the time, which is a play off of like the cartoonist, but the Cartoonist. So I was getting into NFTs, and it was like a couple, maybe like a month or two after I think Apes launched, and I was like, whoa, this is a collection done right. Like the art's on point, the audience is on point, the brand's on point. It's very like it wasn't like a cash grab. It was actually like a birthing of a brand and like a new space. And I was, stroking my chinny chin, like, I think that there's something here. So I reached out to Colin, my good buddy, old pal, and I was like, dude, I think we should bring your almost forgotten previous character that you'd been putting so much love and attention into, and like, let's introduce him to the blockchain. Because unlike a lot of projects, and not to poo-poo other projects, but like, he had been putting blood, sweat, and tears into the IP of Blue Cat, or just the ideation of Blue Cat for many, many years. And I think that that factor is really captured when you look at the art. It doesn't. All of the pieces are unique. We say like all cats are cool. None of them feel like they're in the collection, and they're just like, oh, this one's busted, or like this one just doesn't look right. So I think one of the contributing factors to our success was the fact that he had just put some blood, sweat, and tears into this character that once the world saw, they were like, ooh, Hello Kitty vibes kind of thing. So, but to your point, it was interesting because we had there was Gutter Cats was coming out at the time. I think Mad Cat Militia. There's a couple cats, and it was just like, oh man, it's like a feline fight out here. We gotta fight for our foothold, and that's also the insane. Yeah, meow. That's also the insanity of the NFT space too. Is like, it's this perfect whirlwind of like, when are you getting your timing right? How is the market doing? Like, what's your following? What's your Discord? It's this like beautiful, chaotic concoction of like, well, hope we get it right. So I think the stars just aligned for us in that way, and we really had some good intention with what we were bringing to the marketplace.
Yeah, I think there's also the degree to which you need the right influencers to land on you and stick around. And I think there's a lot of projects that had good supposed influencers, and they came on and then they kind of just disappeared. And they pump something up and then they move on to the next one. I think with you guys, you've had some very loyal, quite public vocal supporters. I'm thinking of Andrew Wang here, but
oh yeah, it's a crazy story about him too. Is he a friend of mine minted the Upside Down cat. So if you don't know, there's I think 8 total what are called unknown cats that are like legendary one of ones. That the floor on them now are like 1 to 200 ETH. They're like super rare. And one of my friends minted one, and at the time, right when there we go, right there. I don't know what the going rate is on it, but that's Andrew's cat. But my friend, that's just a bid. That's not a real. That's a lowball bid. But my friend sold it to him for 5 ETH at the time, which is like right after we launched, and Andrew just sort of identified with that cat, and it's like it's his brand now. So it's also interesting in that same vein, like seeing how some people choose to grasp on to a particular profile picture or piece of art, and they're like, this is me, I identify with this is my brand now, which is a pretty crazy thing.
I have that with Subdugs. Like, Subdugs is not the most successful, most lauded project, but I love the art though. For some reason it just works for me, and I like the fact that it's slightly around the fringes. Cool Cats were not around the fringes. You legitimately, as you said, had claims to be considered one of the blue chips. And I think if we consider Bored Ape now is it has to be considered a blue chip. Then Cyberkongs I would put up there. You guys, and there's not many others because it kind of ebbs and flows. But what I've been really impressed with is you went up above 10 ETH.
Oh yeah, I think we peaked at like 15 ETH when the market was really hot, and then we've been cooling off since then.
But I think your sale price was like 0.04 or something like that. It was.
Oh, we launched at 0.06, and then like 30 minutes in, we got an influx of Discord users, and they're like, you guys should drop the mint. And we're just like, dude, we've just been sharpening the sword for the last month, like waiting for this moment. But like, should we do it? So we dropped it to 0.02, and we sold out a couple hours later. So, I mean, we're essentially giving cats away, and it's just been
my word.
Insanity.
Think about that. If you could buy a cool cat, if you could go back in time and buy a cool cat for 0.02, the floor is like 6.7.
Yeah, close to 7 right now. And ETH at the time too was like 2,700, which is a really
that's the thing that people forget, that ETH is not a static asset; it moves up and down. Your community is clearly a massive piece of this as well. Did you have a plan for the community going into this?
Well, it's not that we're like air quote family friendly in the sense that like we only want to talk to kids or whatever, but our audience is intended to just be like for everyone. It's not like we don't capture that like degenerate vibe or like the guy smoking the cig. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that the sort of allure or appeal we're going for is more just like the Pokemon Hello Kitty vibe. Like an adult might see it and be like, that's a cute cat. A kid might see it and be like, that's a cute cat. So it's the intention was just to bring something to the market that just everyone, couldn't fail to love. I think I worded that goofy, but yeah, think about Pikachu, Pikachu's cute as heck.
Well, I think that's important because if you look at a project like Bored Apes, you kind of now through Twitter, Discord, and just the application of its image, you ascribe it to a certain kind of person. I don't know if it's like your Dubai baller or your
a little bit Miami
designer. Yeah, it's a little bit Miami. Do you know what I mean? And it kind of says something. Whereas there's something that's just intrinsic in terms of the art form, which is what I love about those things. And you mentioned Hello Kitty, which is universal. Bored Apes are a thing, but for me it says Patek Philippe or it says Diamond Rolex, whereas other brands like Cool Cats and and Subdogs just say like fun.
Yeah.
Come and have some fun. Come and join in the gang. It's not all about yachts and flipping.
Well, it's that sort of like inclusive versus exclusive, and both of them are like totally fine. Like it's not one or the other. It's a very like which one are you going for? And think about the brand like Supreme or Bape or something. It's you can buy the hoodie for $1,000, or you could buy the Adidas one for $100 that also looks cool. It's like it really just depends on the audience that you're communicating with.
It's funny. I remember when you guys dropped, it was interesting how there was nothing else that really looked like Cool Cats at the time. And every project I seem to remember, particularly with Bored Apes, they had a counterculture narrative. It very much felt like if punks were Bitcoin, then what's Ethereum? And if you miss Ethereum, then what is EOS or these kind of things? And so that people were looking for a place to say, okay, I'm here and I believe in this and I think this represents me, but I'm excluded from X or X community. And the funny thing about Bored Apes is they never started out being exclusive. They were very much inclusive, and they were a vibe and a thing that was set against.
Well, I think a lot of that is also indicative of like the total circulating supply. Like a lot of these collections, like 10,000 is not a big number when you look at the grand scale of how many people are on OpenSea or like how much Bitcoin or ETH is in circulation. Like as much as I say like, oh, Cool Cats is inclusive, the NFT space as a whole is a very like exclusive in that way where the supply is just so tiny.
So listen, I've added a new person to the stream. We must introduce him properly like this. One day I woke up and bought a crypto punk. Sergio Silva, welcome to the stream.
Hello.
Also known as Sergito. Talk about yourselves. Explain the turtleneck. Come on. What is going on?
It's actually, well, first of all, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate the invite and turtleneck. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, I guess
I guess I've been, seeing a lot of Koopa Troopa around, and so figure guy looks good and I have turtleneck, so got to copy him. But it is funny. I was in Vegas last weekend with the team from Real Vision, participating in the Takeover conference, and so I wore that, and then it so happened that I did an interview with Raul that morning, and then Bloomberg sent the photographer to take pictures for this article. So people are probably going to think I only own one outfit, because my 2 media appearances in my life have me in that same outfit. But just anyway, so that's the story behind it.
It's a good outfit, though.
Appreciate it. Wife likes it, so that's all that matters.
What did you buy today when you woke up?
Nothing, man. I got a lot of incoming messages from my old colleagues in good old Wall Street. People dying laughing that they woke up to see my picture on their terminal, which is just hilarious. I mean, I can't stop laughing about it either. It's kind of ridiculous.
That seems to be the mission. That seems to be the kind of general vibe of the year. I can't believe it. Are you guys looking forward to next year, or do you just want 2021 to continue? It feels like we have to evolve a little bit, but like, what a year. Crazy.
It would be, I think, I look at the stock market a lot and I'm like, it's nice that the market like goes offline sometimes, It'd be cool if it was like Sunday was like, all right, everyone just relax and like don't go crazy on crypto and NFTs, and let's all just catch our breath for 1 minute. But that's also what makes this space so insanely awesome and beautiful and chaotic. So it's
Well, that's
Sergio,
I was going to say that's an interesting point in terms of this. We mentioned it earlier, the speed that these things evolve, and it's been a great year. Everything's going. There's an hour is a month in crypto, but all things have an evolutionary path, and most things eventually either change or die. I mean, like, are we going to get to a point where it's just moving so fast? Like within a day, a project's launched, it goes to 10 million ETH, it's dead, and everyone moves on. I mean, I'm not worried about it, but I think there's going to be a point where how quickly can it evolve? And is there going to be a point where everyone just says, slow the fuck down?
Yeah.
Like you say, the Sunday, instead of making it a Sunday, maybe it's a year.
Yeah.
The trouble is, it just won't happen because it's all digital. It's 24/7. It won't stop
Unless the internet goes offline. It's like,
Yeah.
So what was it like in Vegas?
Vegas.
What was it like
amazing.
in Vegas? What was the vibe?
It was very good. I think, while people are worried because we've seen a lot of projects pump and dump, kind of like immediately, and also, other than Bored Apes, I think, some of the bigger blue chips coming off a little bit here into year end, people get worried. There's a lot of institutional money that's going to come into the space. And so will it come Jan 1st? No, but it'll definitely come in through Q1. And these are like, smart people that have studied asset allocation, studied kind of like how to deploy capital. They missed it this year because obviously you had to be nimble and move fast, like we did. But as they come with kind of like more of a traditional investment methodology, they'll definitely. I think we'll see that flow of capital. Will they buy our trash bags of Yetis and all that crap? No, absolutely not. But will they buy?
How many Yetis do you own?
I actually made money on the Yetis. Like I got lucky on them.
He's long on the Yetis.
I pulled like a rare one and I sold it for like 2 ETH, and that was it. I think I have 2 left. But anyway, so yeah, the vibe in Vegas was pretty much that. A lot of traditional finance folks who are kind of like getting red pilled. I think my worry at the beginning of the year was people were going to say, "Oh, it's just a fad. It's just a scam, Beanie Babies all over again," right? And people really missing what the technology enables. I think we're finally seeing brands, corporations really embody not just the technology, but just kind of like the community that it unlocks. And so, yeah, I'm pretty bullish for like end of Q1 and later on. I do think we're going to see some more pain here in the next month or so.
What is your guys' general sentiment on when the Coinbase NFT marketplace comes out? What's your hot take on that?
I don't think it does anything. I think the average Coinbase wallet balance is something like $400. So will it do anything for any of the projects that we all know? Probably not. And the folks that had the ETH to go spend that, probably found themselves into OpenSea anyways. I'm actually more bullish about the Nifty Gateway integration with the broader Web3 marketplaces, because they will lower gas fees. And that will definitely unlock some more capital. People that didn't want to spend $300 to buy $1,000 NFT. People still thinking USD, right? Like we one ETH, but people still thinking dollars. And I think that's going to be much more of a catalyst than Coinbase coming in and just giving you another venue to buy NFTs. It's not like FTX, the NFT marketplace there did anything. I mean, they even listed some stuff at a discount and people just didn't realize it.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if fractionalization is going to be an inevitability, because like you said, most people with the Coinbase wallet got a couple $100 to play with. So it's like, are we going to see some normalized practice of, let's put an ape or let's get a cat and break it into 100 pieces so people can play the game and be a part of something? Because ultimately people they just want to be part of the club, right?
Yeah, but are you going to have to say something on your PFP profile picture? Is it going to have a little crack in it? Because if I
own 1/10,000th of an ape. Nah,
I own a paw of a cat.
Yeah. I own the cat's penis.
Yeah, the flex isn't there. But going back to Vegas, I want to invent a casino. So just a traditional casino, but you stroll in to the table and you put your phone down or your AR glasses and you start fucking betting cats and dogs and kittens and apes and
pink slips.
Yes,
we were talking about this. So like Fast and Furious pink slips. You put your pink slip down and you race the car for the pink slip. Like doing that with Mario Kart racing, but except you're putting your Meebit or your Punk or your whatever down. People would pay to see that streamed live on Twitch.
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
Let's do it.
That'll be interesting.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because
I take Super Yetis though. I want to bet my Super Yetis.
You can bet your Super Yeti.
But then they're worthless. Nobody cares. There's no stakes. Wrap
but
it
it's
up.
about the bet. It's about the bet. You might bring me 300 Yetis, and I'll be like, Billy Big Balls, drop a fucking Punk on it. So where are we going? Flip that coin.
Have any of you guys hung around with professional poker players at all?
Yeah,
they're all over the space. A lot of them very publicly, but most of them very, very quietly. But yeah, they are all over the space.
They are all over the space. And the trad way is you got a roll of cash this big in your pocket. You go into someone's hotel room, you bet, and then the next night you win it all back off them. I've never seen anything like it in my life. The behind the scenes action that goes on in that world, poker, backgammon. These guys all know each other. They all bet against each other, and they roll in with $500,000 cash just like this. It's this is nothing to them. It's so familiar, and I feel like that mentality, that world is coming into our space. But there's more wholesome things as well.
Fat stacks.
Evan, I actually wanted to ask you if you've been approached by talent agencies like UTA or CAA to represent the Cool Cats. What kind of commercial opportunities have been coming your way, if you can talk about them at all?
Some good ones, and that's all I got. We got some plans for 2022. We got conversations in the works, we got meetings in the pipeline, and we got deals being plotted on. So,
that's all you're giving us.
I was promised I came on here. Come on.
I can believe that it's happening, because the end of this stream is going to be an interview I did with gmoney, and I was sad I couldn't get him on the stream, but gmoney was obviously instrumental in Adidas, but also Visa buying a Punk. So gmoney facilitated that moment, and it felt like when that happened, when Visa said, "Yeah, we're a Punk, and we're getting behind this," that was a huge validation moment for this space. Visa incidentally also approved the use of USDC for international transfers and this kind of thing. Visa is so progressive and ahead of the game when it comes to all this stuff. How do you feel about that? It's big brands coming in, taking our space, or is it actually
I think it depends on how they do it. Pepsi did their thing. Is it earlier this week or last week? It all blends together. I don't know the days anymore. But it was just some mics with hairdos on them, and it was there was no roadmap, there was no nothing. It was just some art, and I didn't really.
They were free, right? They were free.
Were they?
Oh. Yeah. Then people paid up money for them. I personally, and actually at the takeover event, we had a panel on communities with Duncan from Nifty and then Jess from Seed Club. And yeah, if you're a purist, you hate this, the commercial adaptation of it. But if you think about it, right, brands will bring in the new blood. they'll bring in the next 20 million users, especially in America, where Americans trust brands much more than they trust anything else. I mean, people wear Budweiser logos on t-shirts and stuff like that. And so, I welcome them. Again, I agree with you, right? Like, depends on how they come in, if it's cash grabby or not.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of different things, but them coming in, them like saying NFT on their Twitter, them saying like NFT in their marketing will draw a lot of eyes.
All of it is a progressive good move, but like the Visa thing was like, this was like a tactfully done thing, where some of these other brands are like, all right, I'm just going to throw money at the NFTs and like, did we do it? Are we here now?
The same thing with NFT projects though, right? How many of them are just like, hey, like go spam your friends, and how many people you bring to Discord, you get whitelist, and you get this, you get that. I mean, there's always been a range. We would love to hold everybody to the highest standard. The reality is we're humans, and like some people do things right and some don't. So I see the positive in brands really saying NFT over. And
100%. I would rather they release them than not.
I mean, do you feel that there's any brands that just the NFT space is just? I mean, like, are Andrex going to release an NFT? Just tea bags. I mean, it's fine, like all these brands jumping on, but it's as much as we're saying that it's non-exclusive and every brand can get on. I mean, do you feel like there's certain things that it's not good for? And
I think some brands in particular it lends themselves to, like looking at the Nike thing or Nike, depending on where you live. They're big on their like Jordan releases. I think that if a new pair of Jordans came out and it came with a one-of-one claimable NFT, that makes a lot of sense. If Coca-Cola did some limited run Coke bottle came with an NFT, that makes sense. If like Lipton tea or something did tea bags, it's just like, but it gets to a level where it's like, does this make sense or is this a stretch here? But I don't have the answer because it's all a gray area.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Nike and because I think once we get into the AR space and you can have a digital representation on your feet or your shoes or your
we're already there.
I know, but
once we get there, if you watch the gmoney interview, he's there.
He is, but the world isn't. No one's got AR glasses on yet. And I think once Apple take over and make the AR glasses the new iPod, then that is where I will get interested. Because I have some arguments with some people that they're very skeptic. I mean, I'm kind of half skeptic. I made a bit of cash out of it, so I'm like, yeah, it's all right. But I think
I'm going to stop you there. You and I did our first NFT sale in 2020.
Did we?
Remember that? November 2020. You and I did a drop on Meme, and we raised a bunch of money, and we sat there and watched the auction go up and up and up and up and up and up. It was mental. And that was the last one we did. Do you remember that?
It is. I've done a couple without you though. Sorry, Skid.
You've done a couple without me, but that was our entry point. We were like genuine NFT artists back when
3 years ago.
It wasn't a thing. Yeah, it pretty much was. Yeah.
Fuck.
And NFT terms was like a decade ago. Actually.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're OG.
People are like, you're such an OG, and it's like, oh yeah, I got here like 6 months ago.
Yeah. Teach me everything.
Yeah, exactly. We're all making it up as we go.
But I think there's a degree to which NFTs should be treated like automobiles. They are a mechanism for making stuff happen. In the case of the automobile, it's to get you from A to B. NFTs are a culture vessel, but they can also be a vessel for value transfer. Like they represent vaults on Visor, they represent LP positions on Uniswap. To say this should or should not be an NFT is like saying you cannot have bricks to build a house. It's simply about the wrapper that we put on top of it. That's about branding as much as anything else. But we can have luxury items. We can have a luxury car. A Mercedes S-Class is a desirable luxury item. A Maybach, a Ferrari, a Porsche. These are things to aspire to. And as you get to a certain wealth class, you can have that thing because you've earned it and you've worked hard for it. Or because you're a complete dickhead. That's fine. But you can also buy a sensibly priced family Ford Mondeo and be perfectly happy with it. NFTs are exactly the same thing. They are simply a mechanical vessel for other people to put their creativity on top of. We shouldn't class them in any other way. It's literally just a hammer for making stuff happen.
What do you drive, Robin?
I drive a Ford Mondeo. It's a sensibly priced family car. It comes in black. It's covered in
like them Mondeos. We had them in
because
Mexico.
My kids are so messy.
I like that point, right? And I think a lot of people in the space today, which let's face it, most of us got lucky, right place, right time, a little bit of craziness to put, $1,000 or whatever it was back then into this. But a lot of it is lost as far as like what is the NFT technology and what else can we build on top of it. Right now, obviously, they're like social tokens, art, conduit for artists to monetize their IP forever. But if you think beyond our little kind of like world, we're talking about real estate in the future. We're talking about loans, financial products, and NFTs are really going to materialize the whole DeFi promise of money Legos, of money building blocks. And so that's what I'm excited too about, right? Like
I think also like siloed experiences. Think about like Sky Miles for different airlines. Like, why is it not the case that whatever Sky Miles I have, I can't trade them or sell them or there's a marketplace for them, or like Starbucks points or something. There's so many of these brands that just have siloed experiences where they could easily just tokenize the asset. I think gaming and like skins and things like Rocket League or League of Legends or just gaming in general, once there's some sort of major marketplace that people can swap Call of Duty skins for whatever the latest hot games, Fortnite skins, is like, that's going to be a huge boom too. And like, I don't even think we're almost 1% there yet, kind of thing.
I've done a lot of work on digital fashion the last month or so. I've tried to get people excited about it. No one's there yet. CloneX dropped this week, and the CloneX collection is just an orgy of design and detail. And they spent 8 months making this thing, and still people don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of surprised. We've had Adidas with Punk's comic, with gmoney. We've had Nike acquiring artifacts, and still people don't get it. Sergio, you are literally rocking a Bored Ape hoodie right now. You get it.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's the beauty of it, right? When people don't get it and you do, and you see the value. So those are the traits with convexity that will make a difference in your portfolio, your life, your career, whatever it might be, right? You can apply the same model to like people who left traditional finance for crypto 10 years ago, not like this year like I did, right? And those guys and girls and everything else are in a very, very different position. So same thing with NFTs, where people are like, oh, I don't get it. Like, okay, great, because I do. So when you get it, you're going to buy my bags off of me for like 20x today. And so that's fine.
Your friends are not your liquidity. You know that, right?
Well, a lot of people are not my friends, but they still come over to my life, I worked at Barclays and I was very active on Bloomberg chats with clients. And I was actually told repeatedly by my bosses to like literally shut the fuck up. Like they will take me into like the little corner office and be like, stop talking about crypto, stop talking about NFTs. Nobody fucking cares. And now half of them are my DMs like, hey bro, what do I buy? Like, hey man, like yeah. So
like, just point them towards Shiba Inu and then watch them burn. Evan, you had something to say, and I sorry I jumped over you, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of the biggest like pain points or misconceptions for like normies or people who don't get it is the like air quote real factor. They're like, I can't touch it, like I can't wear it, and it's this like flawed perception of, oh, it exists digitally, so it must not be worth this much, and it's like this flawed loop thinking. And I think that once people have that awakening moment, like we saw it with crypto, people with Bitcoin at first are like, what does it do? I don't get it. Like, I can't touch it. What is it? It just lives on the internet. It's just magical jelly bean internet money. And then eventually people are like, okay, I get it. All right. That's fine. And then NFTs are the next wave of just like, but it's just a picture. And it's like, no, it's so much more than just a picture. Like, this is real. Like it's as real as anything else. It just lives in a different place,
Social media, same way.
Is it real?
We saw that. It is, because we say it's real. We give
well,
it
this
value.
is it. Is it real or not? I was about to buy some Yeezys the other day because I thought, fuck it, I want to spend way too much money on shit trainers. So
let's rewind. Let's rewind a second. Let's rewind a second, Simon 1. I gave you an ape. What did you do with that ape?
Well, I set a stupid number based on an amusing thing that if you say 555 in Cantonese, it says So I put that on it, and it sold automatically.
You put that as the sale price, and it bloody hit, didn't it?
It hit at 55.55 ETH, whatever. Wow. But going back to the trainers thing, so going into the Yeezys, going into the things, and I started looking at some YouTube things. Sneakers and secondary sneaker market, especially Air Jordans, Air Forces, and all that. It's a huge thing. People buy for low, which is the mint price. They never wear the shoes. They won't ever wear the shoes. They keep them in the box in a shelf, and they'll be very proud of them, but they won't wear them. Exactly. You're not going to wear that shoe, or maybe you will, but a lot of collectors won't wear the stuff. They'll keep them, and it's the same as something that does exist or doesn't exist. Does that trainer exist if you've spent £5,000 on it and you've put it on a shelf and never wear it? I mean, what?
Right.
Is there a difference? I mean, it's an esoteric, ethical difference.
100%.
But, have you worn those trainers, Robin?
I have not worn those trainers. Okay, so the story behind these trainers, these are the Jeff Staples Artifact trainers. I forged these. So Artifact basically sells you digital items.
With his own
but that's the process. They call forging. But this is somebody with a hammer. Somebody with a hammer in Europe sweated blood, tears, and a bunch of other bodily fluids that we can't mention on air.
Forge mine, make this forging mine.
Wait.
There you go. Sergio knows. Like Artifact is doing things their own way, and they're beautiful people. I love them to bits. But like, this is a real piece. These are real shoes, and Sergio's got his punk shoes there.
I'm gonna
stop it.
Wear them.
Get some help.
So what I also have is my Aku from Michael Johnson.
Nice.
Oh man,
I've been trying to purchase more physical goods because I think it's important that we support the factories.
I'll tell you something crazy, right?
These things get made. But I also have this. This is a super janky. I love the fact that I can hold these on stream.
I like that.
Yeah,
this thing is cool as fuck. But like, it also has a place alongside everything else that I own. I think every single one of us is 20 years too old.
Stop it.
Get some help. Here we go again.
dude, I'll tell you what. On that point about being old, people are like, "Oh, how do you hang out with like kids the whole day?" And I'm like, literally, we're all like mid to late 30s, if that. It's just brought out like childhood memories of playing Pokemon cards and
cartoons, Saturday mornings, collectors, Panini cards, just Pogs, all that little stuff that is cool that you like, that you treasure.
Okay. Who on this stream has kids? Sergio, do you have kids?
I have dogs, which are almost like kids.
Not the same thing. You might want to look that up on the internet. It's not the same thing. If you were looking for kids and you got sold dogs, there's a problem.
You got to talk. No, I don't have kids either.
So I'm the only one who's got kids. Like my kids are my daughter's nearly 10. They are obsessed with Minecraft. They're obsessed with Pokemon. They get this shit. Like my daughter's like, what did you get me today? What did you get me? Because I'm stockpiling NFTs for my kids, but like they're literally. My son is 7 years old and he's already like completely au fait with all of this stuff. It's not a big deal for him at all. And also they've spent 2 years being schooled in COVID. Like, and just, everything is just remote for them.
They're hip to the game.
It is. It's wild to see it. But hey, Simon 1, what news from you? I want to ask you who your NFT hero of the year is.
I'm going to say you, Robin. Aww.
And Sergio, what's your NFT hero of the year?
Because
nobody needs to hear anything more about me. Sick. 2 out of 3. Evan?
My NFT hero? I don't know. Is this
I'll let you finish, and then I'll tell you my real hero.
No, but who's been a hero in the NFT space? Like who's if you say
sense?
like
artist, collector, technologist?
Doesn't matter. Someone remarkable that people might not know of.
Top 10 people in the NFT space the other day for a tweet, and I listed like 25, so I couldn't cut it down. So, for example, if you think about people in the background, Richard, right? People remember him for not selling his pump.
Manifold.
But Manifold. And he's done so much for the artists and helping them, empowering them, teaching them security, like all really good stuff. And then you have really good collectors and you have really good community people like these, right? So like these built a brand on just being super cool dude with vibes and giving artists a spotlight. And then obviously the artists have made a ton of money and changed their lives and collected other artists. So it's hard to just name like one person. Is it about the money? Is it about the vibes? Is it about the technology? It's like, I don't know. If I have to pick absolute one, like biggest person in the space as far as what they've done, I would say Pac. Just because of, the money they brought in, their use of the blockchain, And then this last drop, the merch drop, I was able to onboard like 30 new people to the space because they were excited about Pack. So for me, that checks all the boxes. And if I had to pick one, that would be my winner.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I would probably agree with you. I mean, I made a 3-part film that's like 12 hours long about Puck. And I really got to know the artist pretty well as a result of that. I think Art Blocks has opened people's eyes to a different way of thinking about things. Unfortunately, it's sort of subject to the same market conditions. Puck makes their own market. And they've definitely, like when I look at who's creating new rules for doing things and constantly rewriting their own history, but also having a really fun time with it. It's like a just a constant roller coaster evolving game with them. They never settle. And what I love about Puck is that everybody always feels like they're behind. If you work in narrative fiction and everything else like we do, like Simon and I do, you want to keep your audience behind you. And Puck is pretty much the only artist that I've ever seen that is able to do that in a space where information spreads so quickly. That is some trick.
Yep. No, totally agreed. More
Villains.
people, more. Well, I'll give you one more person before I.
Give me one more.
Somebody that deserves a lot of recognition and never takes any, but Aaron Wright from the Lao. He's been instrumental in incubating, collecting DAOs, Flamingo, Ready Player DAO, Neon DAO, and he's really kind of like laying all the groundwork for what I think will be the, NFTs were to 2021, and DAOs will be to 2022, and Aaron is behind a lot of that. So,
can I just add one more hero? The guy that swept that Bored Ape at 0.75 ETH because that dude fucked up and put it on.
Oh my god,
that's a fucking gaff. That is. Did he get it back, or did he just run with it and just sell it? Because I looked at the sales thing, and it was he had offers for like 45 ETH on it, and you see the transaction, and it's just 0.05.
No undo button on the blockchain.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
How does that happen? Like OpenSea gives you so many alerts. I have a hard time believing that people like when I list, I list. We have a few punks.
Yeah, but do you list on a computer, or do you list on a mobile phone? Because I imagine people doing it on a phone, you can fuck up.
I'm riding a horse. Web3 on mobile.
Yeah, riding a horse, selling my NFTs.
if you're handling an asset that's worth even just 10K, forget 200, 300K. Like, why don't you triple check everything? Like, what's the rush listing an ape or a punk or a cool cats? Like, is there an absolute, unless you're dumping and the floor is like just tanking, there's absolutely no rush. And I don't know, late in the year, people taking this like 200K losses when they've had like up 1 million years. I have a hard time believing like all these mistakes are just happening out of nowhere into like the end of like where you can take tax losses.
There was back in 2017, there was an influencer by the name of Ian Bellina, and he was very good at promoting his spreadsheet and how you would buy ICOs. He had a very public hack where he lost a lot of tokens, and it just so happened that it was coinciding with the end of the tax year. Questions were asked, and those questions were never satisfactorily answered. The investigation continues. I'd like to add Eric Calderon from Art Blocks, because I think he's genuinely changed the game and onboarded a bunch of artists who were just right on the fringes, and he's created legitimacy for generative art. I was a skeptic about it myself, massively, but I think that's definitely. Also, I had a chance to speak to him for an hour, and he was like the nicest dude, and it was just such a pleasure talking to him. I had the best time talking to him. I'd like to foreground a collector, a guy called E.T., who is a really fascinating dude, but he's the guy who bought the Pixel.
E.T. Young.
E.T. Young. Just as a collector, I think he's spectacular. Really sophisticated, smart, buys the right things, and someone I watch what he does. Really, really interesting. And then we should move on to villains, and I would like to propose the arch villain of the year in the shape of Nate Chastain. Nate Chastain.
I don't think
is there really anything else we can say?
I don't think he was a villain. I think he was dumb. Probably the dumbest person of the year. in that sense. And I don't mean disrespect, but he was dumb, right? Like he left so much money.
So if people don't know who Nate Chastain was, let me show you. He was the OpenSea product chief, accused of insider trading, and the fact is he did it, and there is no discussion or debate. He did it, and he got caught, and then he left his position at OpenSea. There is a caveat to this, of course, which is actually you speak to anyone who encountered him and worked with him and did anything remotely connected to him, and they thought he was a lovely guy. He fucked up. Yeah. But at the same time,
saw an opportunity. He just saw an opportunity. Like, he's like, oh yeah, well, everything that's on the front page goes pretty popular. I wonder if you do. Oh, I do the fucking front page.
Wait a second.
He made 18 ETH from that. Like, it's just incredible how much he left.
It's so dumb.
Just think of his OpenSea equity. So yeah, dumbest person. Villain? I don't think so. Dumb?
No, villain, yes. Definitely not. There are some much more culpable people in this space, and I tend to lean on those who have, let's say, promoted a project knowing full well that they have no intention of staying with it. But this is a story as old as time, particularly in blockchain. This happens all the time. I would like to nominate Coltherium in that category because I've never seen anything good from that human being. But I'm wondering if you have any others that are really deserving of the title villain. It's hard to name names, isn't it, publicly?
Yeah. I'm over here pleading the fifth.
Well, you did just ask.
Yeah, you're allowed to plead the fifth.
Robin.
No, you can say no. Villain. You can say no. I think culture is the villain here.
Yeah, there
culture
we go.
Created the environment in which Squid Game could exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think money's the villain then. Because I've bought into some projects which I really like the artwork from a just purely aesthetic point of view, and then within seconds I'm immediately disappointed where the floor drops, and I'm like, "Fuck this load of shit." So I think money's the villain.
Greed is the villain.
Money is the villain.
Greed is the enemy.
Greed is the enemy. I don't have anybody. I think I've been able to stay clear of like influencers and pumps and dumps just by doing a little bit of research. I've heard art chick being named a lot, or art guy, or whatever. Stop following them once they got toxic. Just kind of like don't need that kind of energy in my timeline. Heard things about Cole as well, but again, that never really got involved, so can't comment.
You got to curate the timeline. It's a very choose your own adventure, and it could be a toxic feed if you click the wrong buttons.
Yeah, it's definitely some toxic.
There is a degree to which like similar to hip hop, beef is good for business. Like beef it attracts eyeballs, and you get people on both sides. Beef also contributed to the deaths of Biggie and Tupac, so it can go a bit too far. I'm not sure we're going to see quite the same levels of vitriol, but like Beanie is someone that is deeply divisive. But at the same time, Beanie has now partnered up with Adidas via Punk's comic. Yeah, Beanie smashed it basically, but also Beanie was like promoting B-Loot or whatever it was that was, oh god, garbage, absolute garbage. And it's fine to call it garbage because it is garbage. If something hasn't been developed beyond its initial hype phase, then it's garbage. Evan, that brings me very clearly to the problem that you will have had, which is sustaining momentum, a second album, a third album. And I'm really excited to see where you guys go next, but I'm also aware that you would have had a point at which you realized there are so many projects queuing up to follow you and to basically take you down or take your community. I'm wondering how you defended yourself against that, what you did to preserve the community that you had built up.
Is that a Cool Cats question?
It's a Cool Cats question.
Well, I think transparency and how often you have the dialogue with the community. Like we have weekly town halls, we put out our roadmap, we let people know what we're working on. We also try to stick to the ideology of under promise, over deliver, because there's nothing worse than just saying like, we're going to do this, and then you just don't do it. But it's tough because basically NFT investors effectively are like shareholders, and they want to know what the company's up to. They want to know what you're doing, what you're building, who you're talking to. And it's a fine line we play because we're working really hard in the background. We're taking a lot of conversations and meetings and trying to get a lot of things in the works, but it's also like you don't want to announce things until it's the ink is dried and the dust is settled. And another beautiful thing about the community too is we will internally incubate what we think is a fantastic idea, and we have these people that are it plugged into us that we could say, hey, what do you guys think about X, Y, or Z? And they can instantly say, nope, we hate that idea. And we go, okay, well, let's just not do that then. So it's refreshing to be able to get that like rapid feedback from such a live captive audience at your disposal, which it's good because you basically have like A/B testing at your fingertips. So I'd like to think whatever features or offerings or partnerships we roll out, some of them are going to be net new to people, but I'd like to think along the way we can sort of drop breadcrumbs. It's just like, do you guys like this? Is everyone liking what we're doing, kind of thing? So I think that's a pretty like NFT specific community thing, an upside to have.
Were you looking at a token? Sorry, I seem to remember a milk token. Am I incorrect in that?
We got a milk token. That's going to be the primary token in our economy. That's going to be coinciding with or directly interacting with the eggs that we're going to be introducing as our next offering. So you're going to need the milk token, which is also effectively the gold token. They're one and the same, really, depending on if it's in the ecosystem. But yeah, that's going to be within the Cool Cats ecosystem. You're going to use that to interact with the Cool Cats marketplace, buy items, other exclusive NFTs, interact with your egg, hatch your egg till it turns into a pet. So it's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of number crunching too, and it's a lot of trying to make it make sense and not break. But yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like Loot is the perfect example of that. It's community first and then figure it out. But I guess also when you add a token, you are also at exposure to regulators and people that can take you down for reasons very much external to yourselves. Is that stuff that you're mindful of? Do you have legal counsel for that? Or how you approach it?
1,000,000%. Definite legal counsel. And definitely it's a meme being like, oh, we're utility first, but that is the primary use case. Like we want this gamified Cool Cats ecosystem to be something that you need to have a token to interact with. So it's basically going to be required to interact with a lot of these experiences that we're making. It's not just like, oh, it doesn't do anything, now go dump it all on Uniswap kind of thing. So the intention is to have an actual ecosystem that is dependent on the token itself. But yeah, to your point, it's something we have consultation on with legal counsel, just because you don't want to oopsie it and then everyone's in trouble now because milk wasn't as delicious as you thought it would be,
So do you come from a finance background? The DeFi element to NFTs is kind of weird and still up for grabs, I feel. But do you think that there's mileage there, or is it a dead end? We should just stick to culture.
No, I think, borrowing against your NFTs will be a big market. I think you need standards, kind of like what happens in the regular market where, people agree to kind of certain type of contract terms. But you have NFT FI, you have Pond5, both trying to go at it. I've seen a lot of VC money go into the space because it definitely makes sense, right? Being able to monetize your collection. And it's what happens in the real world. Big art collectors borrow against that. So that's kind of like, I think, the big DeFi thing. As far as like the staking mechanics and all this other stuff that people are trying, it's a little bit more Ponzinomics, which, whether you like it or not, is usually like step one before like finding out what the best way of creating an economy is. So you look at the history of the world economy, we went through different iterations until we kind of got it right, and then this one doesn't. But take a step further, and it's everything in life is a pyramid scheme. And so, you need. No, it's true though. Like, think about the stock market, right? You need people to believe that the stock that you hold today will be worth more and buy from you at a higher level in 5-10 years when you're planning on retiring or selling it. So, there's a difference in pyramid and Ponzi, right? Ponzi, you need to keep bringing people in and take their money to pay, the older investors. But everything we do, if you think about it, from government, economics, everything else, it's kind of pyramid in a sense that you have a strong foundation and then you build on top of it, but you need to set that very strong foundation. And so in the financial markets, that strong foundation is a repo market, the borrowing short-term against your assets. That's how banks, Wall Street, commercial banks kind of like finance themselves. So I think that's the kind of like the first thing that we got to get right to really DeFi NFTs.
I did a tutorial on borrowing against your NFT this week. And so I used a Bored Ape as collateral. I just put it on the marketplace and said, I would like 50,000 DAI, and here's the term, 30 days. It was actually very straightforward, but what I got back in terms of offers was just all over the place. It was people offering me way more than I was asking for, and then APRs of like 60, 70. One guy was APR of 100%, and it's just like people are just chancing it. With a Bored Ape, you got a pretty decent piece of collateral, a very desirable piece of collateral, but if you step off from punks, Bored Apes, maybe autoglyphs or something like that, you're in the wilderness, and people are just going to absolutely, butt rape you for APR on anything below that. But it's the pricing mechanism is just all over the place. How do you value and price a Bored Ape? There needs to be some kind of value service or agreed upon values, and I don't even know how we get there because it's so all over the place.
It's early, and people are building stuff to solve that. I think, again, to the point earlier, once you get more institutional money, kind of people that know how to do things in a more traditional sense, you'll definitely get capital coming in and kind of saying, okay, we won't just do one loan against one ape, but let's take small slices of 20 different loans. And that's the way also kind of like a lot of those loan agreements and stuff are structured in real life, where you hedge your exposure by having exposure to multiple things. And of course, that's eventually going to blow up like CDOs did, and we're going to have it all over again. But it's cyclical. We're humans.
I was just going to say,
human nature
it's almost as 100 times more radioactive than CDOs, and those were pretty bad.
We go around the sun every 365 days. We live our life in cycles, school cycles, career cycles, market cycles. So yeah, at some point we'll have CDO squares with like cool cats and punks in them. I'm 100% sure of that. 20 years maybe, but we'll have them.
We'll have digital blockchain bounty hunters that are coming to reclaim the money that people have defaulted.
Metaverse bounty hunters.
I'd watch them.
Bounty hunters. That would be great.
Well, that's not a million miles away from Snow Crash. The world of Neil Stephenson. We're there. There's also the cycle of the fourth turning, where you have this kind of massive cultural upsurge that prefaces a new kind of 40, 50-year cycle. I'm talking like macroeconomic stuff here. Let's get it back to the NFTs. No one's interested in this crap. Are there any projects that you've seen this year, Evan, that you went, oh my God, I wish we'd done that? Have you been looking at other people and kind of benchmarking against them?
The wish we'd done that is a tough question, because I'm committed to what we've done. Also, my neighbor above me is like playing with a hammer now, so I hope you guys don't hear that.
You've done all right as well, mate.
We had dogs before.
I don't know what's going on up there. Like the Doodle has their DAO in place, which they have like their voting out the gate, which is a nice mechanic. We're going to be rolling out a DAO as well at some point in time in the next quarter or so. So that's nice to roll out the gate with that, so the community can vocalize their vote. It's cool also seeing a couple of these projects like the Littles, and I think another one whose name escapes me, but they have like their interactive pixel world. Oh, and then also DeFi Kingdom is really cool too, because they have the art looks incredible, and also they have like the DeFi staking built in the game. So I think it's really interesting to look at a gamified NFT that is tied into DeFi. But it's sort of to your question of like would we have done that or something? We're not really like pursuing the DeFi play, so it's not really our thing. But I really like what they're doing over there. And the Wizards as well. I like what they're doing. I don't know if it's like the Wizards of something, or the Wizards is just what they're called, but they're also working on, I think, some sort of game currently, and they just had some rollout that if you burned a wizard, and then also this thing that they dropped you, then it minted a new one. It's a lot of lore. I really like the lore and like the story. It's a nice narrative for people to buy into, other than just like, look at the art, what do you think? It's like you own this. Owning this grants you access to this. If you use this right, then you can access this. Like, you don't know what's behind the tomb. It feels more of like you're one of those adventure books where it's like flip to page 7 for this or page 30 for this. Like, you don't know, and it's captivating in that way. So I do like seeing these projects that are a bit more innovative with how they're telling their story and engaging in that way. So I do like that kind of stuff.
And weird. I think the ones that are weird and pursue their own path are more interesting, and they may well fail. And I think retail has a hard time understanding stuff that doesn't look identical to something they've already seen. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, those are the ones where they forge their own path. And
it's the weird stuff that sticks.
I know a few projects like that.
Like Loot, right? Like Loot came out in like a day overnight, and the internet, like Twitter, was just on fire. And like I was scratching my head. I was like, let me just wrap my head around this. What's going on here? But I mean, it's a unique idea. It's a little weird, but it's a cool idea.
It's a unique idea that made loads of money and it went nowhere. I mean,
that's not true.
Idea.
Actually, that's not true.
It's true.
It got ahead of itself. It got ahead of itself.
Yeah, it got ahead of itself. Exactly.
It was a great idea.
We're investing in the ecosystem via Neon DAO. I'm part of Neon DAO, and we're taking a very serious look at Loot. I think Loot had the problem of, people were so excited about it that they bid it to like an 18 ETH floor, which absolutely made no sense. So that aftermath of the crash.
Well, it made a little bit of sense. It made a little bit of sense because someone added a token. So AGLD was launched, and you could claim it for free. That airdrop, if you were smart, you could have netted $70,000 from a single airdrop in 24 hours. That's why the token price went up so much. And now they have to build it. And that's fine, because it's the same problem that every layer 1 protocol has had to go through. Yeah. But Loot is not a layer 1. It's a completely different platform for which we have no rules. We don't know how it's supposed to be, and people don't understand it. And also people get bored. And it's very easy to get bored when all you can see is a black square with some text on it. So, give me a cool cat or a sup duck or a punk or an ape any day, because I will get much more aesthetic visual enjoyment out of it. And it looks better on a t-shirt.
You're right. People get bored. That's like something happens in space, especially with so many new things coming out and so much FOMO being generated on a daily basis, where you're like, oh God, I should have bought this one instead. And then, we saw it with the mutants earlier this week with Clone X, people just dumping mutants, when I personally think it's such a good play to hold mutants and wait for the token and everything else they're building. Obviously, the team's executing really, really well. But people just dumping them because they have FOMO about Clone X, going up in value. And so people get bored. People want to make, money every single day, which, hey, if you do that, congrats. But it's not kind of like reality. And so, yeah, I think that boredom factor also plays a lot and feeds the FOMO.
Well, the truth is that the moment you add a token, you moment you add a tradable component to anything, you are then in the market cycle, you're in the churn, and you just have to accept it. Evan, have you suffered from that? Have you felt the burn of that, or have you basically just kind of shut the charts down and said, we'll go where we go, and when OpenSea pings us that we've had a secondary sale, then happy days?
So is the question like about how I feel about us introducing a token?
It's about market dynamics and how it plays on you emotionally, essentially.
I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question, honestly. Like, it's we're all just doing our best and shrugging along the way, and like trying to do best intentions with bringing anything to market we possibly can, and just like, having good intention and doing the most due diligence and like proper effort and blood, sweat, and tears into things, and then we sort of pray in the process and see what comes out the other side.
Was there a moment for you when you just went, oh my God, this is real now? Like, we need to take this seriously.
Yeah, it took a few days and weeks I think the upstairs neighbor's now like vacuuming. I hope you guys can't hear that. They're just like, yeah, it's either hammering or vacuuming. I don't know what it is, but yeah, the first few weeks, it was just like wrapping my head around the fact that A, we sold out, and B, there was just such crazy price action going on. And also, I think the outside of like the monetary upside, seeing just randos on Twitter be like, yeah, I identify with this. This is mine forever. Like, this is just me. It touches you in a way where you're like, whoa, this is really cool. We we made a thing that people identify with to a degree that like they resonate with on so many levels that it's so yes, it's their profile picture, but it's so much more than that. And having something that their family too is like, oh, my daughter loves this, my family loves this. It's a that starts to hit you in the feels where you didn't even realize that like you were gonna feel any of that.
Do you know what would be a great tie-in with Cool Cats? Have you heard of a brand called Yakult? It's quite big in Asia. There's these little milky drinks. They're fucking amazing. It's so nice and they're good for your belly. Cool Cats Yakult. I would collect all them.
We had them in Mexico. They're so good. You just brought back so many memories right now.
Yakults are the best. And they're tiny little things. Get the little.
I think I've seen those.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can be a claimable with milk token maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Milkshakes. Cool Cats milkshakes. I'm in. I want it.
I would collect that 100%. I'm right there with you too.
You can have that one for Christmas.
Well, that gives me the perfect segue because I lined up gmoney to talk about specifically. Well, I wanted to quiz him on Adidas. We have gone past 6 o'clock here in the Netherlands, which means the embargo on gmoney speaking has now lifted. So I'm actually allowed to show what we talked about. I mean, there's no real alpha craziness in there, but he's specifically talking about brand tie-ins and how he shepherded in that relationship with Adidas. So I'm going to play the gmoney clip. I'm actually going to say goodbye to Evan, to Sergio, to Swanee. Thanks so much for joining the stream. Awesome to have you on. Enjoy the rest of your year. And whoever's out there buying NFTs right now, you are all heroes. And I'm sure 2022 will be a fantastic year. Simon One needs to speak.
I was hoping, because I missed out on the whole CloneX thing, I got in deep. I did the raffle. I couldn't afford to buy some trainers for £900 million. I was hoping that live on air, Robin Schmidt of the Defiant Supermassive, Soul Brother Best Friend, would just be dropping me a CloneX into my MetaMask account live on air for Christmas. Let's all say, yeah, let's do it.
The issue is that we've already outed you as the recipient of a Bored Ape, which you sold at the exact top about 3 hours before Mutants dropped for 55 ETH. So go and buy your own one.
Great time, guys. Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys. Let's roll gmoney. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Evan. Well, listen, I wanted to stop by with you because you and I kind of touched base right at the beginning of this year to talk about specifically your purchase of a punk and why you had such high conviction over that. And I just was curious how the year had panned out for you, whether it had gone as far as you thought, whether things had gone in directions you didn't like, but basically just kind of what your take on this year has been.
Yeah, so it's been a wild and crazy year. I think everything that I thought would happened at like warp speed. Like when I bought my punk, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be the first crypto punk to go for sale at an auction house in 5 years, right? And that was kind of like my thesis is I was gonna be able to sell it at a really high premium, a few years from now. And I think the crypto punk sale went, at Christie's 5 months later. So it went 90% faster than I originally thought it would, which has been crazy. I think the adoption that's happened in the space has been insane. As over the last month, you have started to see, major brands, right? Like Adidas, Nike, I'd say probably two of the most culturally significant brands in the world in terms of, things of what is very mainstream and very also widely known and also very attainable by most people around the world. And it's been a crazy, awesome experience being able to interact with the Adidas team and kind of work with them as they've been coming into the space and seeing that I think two brands like these, two brands as iconic as them coming into the space really helps kind of give the space a lot more of a backing, right? Where other brands have to turn around and be like, hey, like NFTs are real. It's not just some flash in the pan tulips type of thing. So to me, it's been a super amazing year, and I'm really super excited with what's coming next.
We'll come back to that. I'm curious how that conversation with Adidas, you say Adidas, I say Adidas, but big brand, well known. How did that come about? How did they approach you, and How did you end up closing the deal on that one?
So they reached out to me. Can I just pause for like 1 second here?
Yeah, sure.
When do you plan on releasing this podcast?
Tomorrow.
What time?
It will be about, imagine in 24 hours and then add an hour and a half. So probably, 4:35 tomorrow, my time.
Okay. Do you think that you could push it back by like 2-3 hours? Because there's currently a press embargo with Adidas and things that they're announcing. It's supposed to be tomorrow.
Sure, I can do that. I think
Okay.
it's worth it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right,
I can
cool,
do that for
thanks.
you. Yeah.
So basically the way that Adidas reached out to me was that someone on the Adidas team that was very deep into NFTs literally just sent me a DM on Twitter. And he told me, he was a fan of all the work that I was doing. And he told me that he worked for Adidas. And for those next 8 weeks, and I was like, I don't know if this guy works at Adidas or not, but it's worth taking that phone call. And this is back in mid-April is when he reached out to me. And I said it was worth taking that phone call. And, we started chatting, and we were talking for 6 to 8 weeks before I even got an email from him from the Adidas domain. So I wasn't even sure if he was actually working at Adidas, but we were jamming, right? He was an NFT guy, very deep into NFTs and super about Web3. And that to me, it's all right, Adidas or not, it didn't necessarily matter to me. So, the conversations just kept on going, and he would kind of update me every once in a while on how things were progressing internally. And obviously Adidas is a very large organization. So you can't imagine that Adidas or any Fortune 1000 corporation can move at the speed that crypto and NFTs move. So to me, it's I knew it was going to be a long process. But I was really happy with the turnaround and how committed people were to the space, and how it was kind of the people that were very into NFTs and into crypto within the Adidas org banded together to push this project internally, right? And so I was helping guide them along the way of giving them feedback. Ultimately, this was the first time I spoke to Adidas. Bored Apes and Punk's comic didn't exist as projects yet, right? So this was really one of those things where we were chatting, and they would come up with ideas, and I would give them my honest feedback, and they would take that honest feedback and they would apply it internally. So it was a very collaborative process. And then once the Apes and the Punks became involved, it was just very collaborative, right? Where they're what do you guys think is the best way to go about it? What is your suggestion for community building and empowering the NFT communities, as opposed to kind of trying to sell them stuff? And you've seen it over the last week or two, where some major brands have come into the space that doesn't seem very authentic, and you're it's so cringe. But the thing that I really enjoyed about working with Adidas was that from the outset, I was very much if you want to come into the NFT space, don't just release a picture of your logo done by an artist that let's people know, right? That might have worked a year ago or at the beginning of this year, but that's not where the NFT space is now. Let's push the boundaries of what NFTs are, and let's do something that's cool and super authentic to your brand, right? There's no reason why a soft drink company should not be doing something around soft drinks, right? If you're coming into the space, right? And so, if Adidas is going to be coming into the space, it should be something with wearables and product, and that's what people want. And so that to me was what I really found super interesting about working with them, is the way they felt about pushing the space forward and also coming in a fully authentic way is what really attracted me to it.
What are they looking to get out of moving into this space? Because it's taking they must have an end game. What, it's a commercial entity. What are they looking to accomplish by moving in here like this?
I mean, I can't speak to how they feel internally. I can only say what I've gotten from my interactions with them is that they very much want to empower creators. They want inclusivity, right? They want to allow everyone to partake, and I think that's very much in the crypto ethos. There are for-profit entities, so obviously at some point there will be I think a bigger dive into the metaverse and Web3, but like I think the key here is kind of being like, hey, we acknowledge what you guys are doing. We acknowledge that this is the future, and we want to be a part of it, right? Like we're not here to kind of necessarily take advantage and sell you product. We're here to kind of help the community grow and help creators and people harness this and use like the brand and everything that they built in the outside world and bring that into the space.
On your Fortune Nifty 50 profile, it says you're a karaoke loving investor. What's your karaoke of choice? Are you a hip hop head?
No, I like old school. So I have 3 go-to karaoke songs. So my first one is Mr. Big. I'm dating myself here. Mr. Big, To Be With You, which is an early 90s power love ballad, it's a great sing-along song. Number 2 is We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel, which so much fun. That is like people go nuts for that. And number 3 is Miley Cyrus Wrecking Ball.
Oh my God, who are you? Like you've just literally uncooled yourself in like 3 easy steps. Well, you've gone around the other side of it. The reason I brought that up is because I have this feeling right now that we're experiencing something similar, if not the same, to how hip hop was perceived in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm hearing Elizabeth Warren talk about DeFi in particular being shady, being populated by criminals. It's the same kind of language, that we heard politicians back then talking about hip hop. They rejected it. They didn't want it. And it was a youth culture movement. Is it a reach to feel like we're experiencing something similar with NFTs right now?
I agree with you. I agree with you in the sense that this is the beginning, I think, of a new era, which is why I've been. I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
He's got a live avatar 3D of his punk.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So I agree that there's definitely like a counterculture movement there. When I think about a lot of similarities to what you just said with, let's say, the early 80s, mid 80s, early 90s, and the hip hop movement, is that was kind of like one of those, like I saw, like I didn't see that until I was speaking to Adidas, right? And like, I mean, if you look back in time and when they signed Run DMC and they gave him, I think, like $1 million signing bonus, like that was like a stroke of genius if you look back at it in time, where, the Superstar sneaker is still like one of their marquee sneakers that they sell consistently. And they were able to kind of ride that wave of hip hop for the next 40 years. And I think it's like, to your point, is like, we're there too, right? Right now with NFTs. And I think like NFTs are allowing crypto culture to be exported to the masses. And because like, the DeFi and, I come from a finance background, so I very much was playing the DeFi games last summer, in summer of 2020. But to me, like, that's not what's going to take crypto mainstream, right? Because people don't necessarily want to play money games each and every day, yield farming and, trading and all this stuff. But people understand collectibles, people understand music, people understand art. So to me, I have very much felt that NFTs are the Trojan horse that's going to take crypto mainstream. So, like, what does the world look like 10, 20, 30 years from now? Like, I'm pretty sure that nobody's going to even know that they're using crypto, right? Because that's, you take a look at the internet today compared to in the mid to early 90s, right? Like that, it was a very technical thing with, maybe a couple thousand users, and now you go to a website, you don't need to have any technical knowledge in anything. So I agree with you. I think that right now with any new technology, it's often misunderstood by let's say older people, and those happen to be a lot of policymakers at the moment. And so I think over time that proliferation will change, and the predisposition, I think, hopefully, I would hope, of people that are making policy actually changes and realizes that this is like the next step of technology and embrace it.
Well, you were talking about Run DMC. There was, of course, Beastie Boys as well.
Yeah.
We talked about Nike. Nike basically put all their bets on Michael Jordan, and it paid off spectacularly. And then they became the sports brand, and they sponsored great sports. Adidas, we're always sponsoring culture. And so when Adidas comes into this space, it doesn't feel forced or unearned, but I still think people are skeptical about a big brand like that coming in. And I think there's still this kind of, this is our space and you don't come in and you don't take it. There's a kind of counterintuitive logic here, which is you want this mainstream adoption. You want everybody to come in. And at the same time, we don't want everybody to come in because we feel if we do that, they will spoil it. Do you feel conflicted in that way by what you're seeing?
No, I think that mainstream adoption is what we all want. You know what I mean? Like the day that Facebook rebranded to Metaverse, I got like 15 phone calls from people telling me that, holy shit, everything you've talked about for the last year was right. And so like, up until then, people thought I was like this kook that was like, dude, like, you're living in this future that's never going to exist or whatever. And, that's going to bring more investment dollars right into the space. The fact that you have one of the richest men in the world pivoting and being like, the metaverse is the future and we're going to invest in it. Now, a lot of other people are going to follow suit. It's the same thing with, people like corporations that tell us that are like the kings of culture, right? Like Nike and Adidas are very much part of the cultural fabric of society. When they come into the space, everybody else has to listen, right? Like up until now, we've had a lot of like smaller brands that have been very, very Web3 native. But to me, you need these brands in order for mass culture to happen, right? Like just for, like I don't want to be sitting here hanging out with the same like 100, 200,000 people every day for the rest of my life. Like I think that this is a very impactful technology. And I think that as people slowly understand it more and more, like you're going to get more of that adoption. So to me, I'm not conflicted at all. The things that I usually, let's say, look for when I'm going to talk to a major brand or any, whether it be a celebrity or a major corporation, is, how authentic are they, and how, like, is this a cash grab? And like I said, everyone that I interacted with on the Adidas team is very into crypto. Like it's almost like they had this internal task force internally of being like, hey, we are already in like the crypto and NFT space. Whether Adidas is part of it or not, like we're going to be involved. And so it was a very authentic thing. Like, I mean, if you take a look, I think at Adidas's entry into the space, and I know I'm probably biased here because I helped them, but like, I think it's the most authentic entry of any brand so far into the space, where they're being collaborative with projects and not being like, hey, like this is our IP, and, like all the big corporate stuff that most corporations are very scared of. And they've been like, all right, like, let's do it. Like, let's disrupt and like, let's move forward. So to me, it's very much about working with brands that understand it. Like I sold Visa their CryptoPunk in August, right? And, like I had to KYC to them in order to do that. And I was like, all right, that's cool, because, you just put this on your balance sheet. Like, if you put this on your balance sheet, what is American Express and MasterCard going to do, right? Like, you weren't like, you bought Ethereum to buy a CryptoPunk. Like, you didn't say, hey, like, can you convert this to dollars and use the Visa payment network to sell this to us, right? Like, they came in with our ethos. So to me, it's like, you want the masses to come in. You want the financial, like, that's the only way you get mass adoption, right? As long as they're coming in under our ethos and playing within our our guidelines, and not like in 2017, every corporation was like, yeah, blockchain tech is great, but we're going to make our own private blockchain, right? And that failed, right? The corporations that realize that, oh, we want to be a player in this public ecosystem, those are the ones that are going to thrive, because those are the ones that are like true to the ethos. So to me, I think getting brands and mainstream adoption is the number one thing. It starts off like everything that becomes a movement starts off as a counterculture movement. And so, it's how can you sit here and say that this technology is going to change the world if you only want a couple 100,000 or a couple million people actually using it?
Do you remember the tweet you put out when the Visa thing broke? See if I can paraphrase it. You said something along the lines of, this is the first time that a major company has done a piece of marketing that has no expiry date. This is an asset that endures and that will continue to market for them no matter what. That was very insightful. I think that was the best take I'd seen on it. And of course, you were inside of that, but do you still stand by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did at the time was, they were the first major corporation to buy a CryptoPunk. I think what I'm super interested in is, what does this mean for other corporations as they get into the space, right? Like if American Express came in and bought a CryptoPunk tomorrow, like people would be like, they'd shrug and be like, all right, well, that was already done, right? It's like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to up that bar? And so to me, like, I give a lot of kudos to, the crypto team at Visa, because it tells me that they understand what's going on, right? And they put out their white paper on their thesis and explaining why they bought their CryptoPunk. And so to me, it's like, great. Like, I don't think that that's like the one and only thing that they're going to do, right? And it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to buy a CryptoPunk and then like I'm going to release an NFT collection to sell to people. It wasn't like a marketing stunt in that way, where you've already seen that happen with like certain celebrities and stuff, where, oh yeah, like buying a CryptoPunk and then 3 days later, oh, releasing an NFT, right? So I think to me that it's super authentic, and it just, I don't know what they have planned next, but at least it tells me that they understand the NFT and crypto space better than others.
Well, of course, there's the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, which has this ridiculous tide effect on everything. We've been through these before, and we know how much the sentiment just gets sucked out of the market. How do you think these companies are going to respond when the hype has gone? Or is there a case to say, you know what, this time it is different? I'm on the fence here, but I'm curious what you think.
So I think that the companies that will probably do the best in the crypto space will be the ones that invest during the down cycle, and that continue building and realize that it's not, we're in, as with public markets and like equities, is that like there's the hype cycle because the story is really good, right? If the story is really good, people get excited and people buy assets because they're like, oh, I think this will go up over time. At some point, you reach peak excess, and then like you get a high, and then that's where the pullback starts. I think that the corporations that understand that this technology for what it actually is will be investing during that bear market and will reap the rewards long term because of it. And the companies that don't will end up getting left behind. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. I am trying to lower that window, right? Like I from the first day that I spoke to Adidas to today, it's been I think like 8 months, 8 or 9 months, 8 months, I believe. And the fact that a major corporation was able to kind of delve into the space that quickly gives me hope, one, for them. But I also understand that there's going to be some corporations that, they might be looking at NFTs and crypto today, but they won't have any sort of product or solution for the next 3 to 5 years. And that's okay, because every corporation is going to move at their own cadence, but that just allows them to be left ripe for disruption, right? Like if a smaller, nimbler competitor can come in and fill that void until they get there, then either they're going to have to do some sort of acqui-hire, where and I think we're probably going to see that increasingly in the space, or they're going to have to build something organically, which they're going to have to pay up for talent. So to me, I agree with you. I think that we're going to reach that point, and that point could be, it could have already happened, it could be coming. But I think a lot of it also has to do with like macro cycles, right? Of, what are central banks around the world, economic policy doing to affect not just crypto and NFT asset prices, but also, equities, real estate, every asset class around the world.
Well, what's interesting is that, if you're a YouTuber, for instance, you're always encouraged to find alternative revenue streams, whether it's selling courses or everything else. What I find fascinating about NFTs is that they very quickly managed to find alternative streams of sentiment from culture, because culture doesn't give a shit about Bitcoin or the 4-year cycle. And so you have a well, maybe it's not that deep, but you have a well in which these entities, these communities can continue to thrive because the big kind of people that are active in them are doing stuff no matter what happens. They don't just disappear or switch off their Telegram. They're still there. I just want to round off here by asking you about your physical presence in front of me now. You are 100% your punk. This is you, and it's 3D, and this is you. That's still quite unusual. How has it been for you to just be gmoney and be that person in this last 12 months or so?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting and wild ride. One of the things that I realized really early on was I was contacted by major media outlets like very early on in the year, and they were like, the only way we'll get you on television or in print is if you give us your name and you show your face on TV. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it, because nobody cares what me as a person has to say about NFTs. People were caring about what gmoney the ape has to say about NFTs, and like that kind of like led me to start thinking about, all right, like identity in the future, what's that going to be like, right? And it's like when you're given your birth name, it's something that's generally passed down to you. It's a family name that you don't get to choose because it's given to you at birth, and you generally can't change your genetics, right? Like whatever your genes are, that's what you're kind of going to look like for the rest of your life. And so what technology has allowed us, and you see this with games, and you see this with whatever your username is for whatever sites you log into, is that's very personalized, right? Like if I wanted to be like flying unicorn to have my screen name, like that's like, oh, this person likes flying unicorns, right? Or and I wanted to express myself as showing myself as like a giraffe or something, like it's like, oh, this person likes giraffes, that they want to be seen as one. And so it's like that's something that's super hyper personalized, and I think you're going to see the rise of that, right? Like when I started the gmoney account, I always wanted to be very authentic to who I was as a person, so that if you actually met me in real life, you'd be like, gmoney is exactly the type of guy that I thought he would be, just from like reading his tweets. And so that to me is like it's just the next evolution of, I think, like identity. And I think that ultimately what and people, we've been talking about this now for years, right? What you look like and what your name is doesn't matter, right? Like if you're a human being and you want to have an equal opportunity regardless of your sex, your race, your gender, all of these things. But like I think we're taking that to the next level, because like you're talking to me as an ape, like I'm having conversations with people that don't know my real name, that don't know my face, but because of the reputation that I have, will take what I say as a trusted source. That obviously, just like in real life, right? Like I could ruin my reputation very quickly. And so, I think that those same things still exist in the brave new world that we're going towards, but it's just a different paradigm and a different way to think about it. And, I think we were inherently already doing it. Now it's just more immersive, right? And it will continue becoming more immersive.
What are your thoughts for next year? What do you see coming up? Just one last question.
Oh man, I'm super excited to see like what other brands and key people of influence, like whether it's celebrities or brands and stuff, like are working on to come into the space. Because to me, it's like the most important thing is coming in the most authentic way to whatever it is that you do, right? Like I'm going to go back and use the Pepsi example, where it's like nobody wants a microphone from a soda company, right? Like that to me is like super lame. right? And so, yeah, I think that, like, you know, each brand, and sometimes when I talk to people, they're like, what do you suggest? I'm like, I don't know, you know your brand better than I do. You know, like, do something that's authentic, do something that not just your current fans will like, but then something that, like, if there's a fan with that crypto overlap where they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, like I would buy that, right? And I think that that's kind of like what NFTs are allowing, and crypto in general, is just you're cutting out a ton of middlemen, and you're allowing people and people that have brands and IP to engage directly with their end user and their community. And you know, it's like there's going to be new ways to kind of do that, and we're all learning that together. And it makes me super excited, because I think as you get more and more people into the space, you're going to get more creativity of people thinking about things a little differently than everybody else. And that's where you're going to get real innovation of technology.
So I'll give you a glimpse of what we're working on here, because I mentioned that we were going to be changing things. We're running full bore into this. We're building a full optical motion capture studio right here. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be basically, through the next 6 months, going completely virtual. So I will be transmitting from Unreal Engine. We'll be doing live mocap. We'll be triggering stuff using MIDI, using music, basically just embracing these assets and saying that's actually who we are. And the story of the metaverse should be told from the metaverse. And when I see you as your ape, in no way does that diminish the experience. It's fun, it's authentic, it's you, even though it's it's a digital head. I love that. And it gives me even greater validation that what we're doing, which is taking this and make it digital and just running with the glitches and running with where it gets weird. I think that's so where we need to go. And figuring that out is exactly, as you said, where we will find solutions that we would never have come up with in any other sector. And I think that's what I'm excited for next year. It's the completely virgin ground we're moving into. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, amazing. I'm looking forward to it. And I'd love to come back on the show I might be getting a mocap suit at some point, but yeah, you know, we could definitely jam in the metaverse together.
Well, we'll definitely have to share data on all these things, because it's not straightforward.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nice one, man. Well, listen, I've got to jump on to another call, but it was awesome speaking to you, and have a great end of the year, great Christmas, and I can't wait to catch up with you when the space has moved on. So next week, probably. You know.
So,
how fast it goes. If you could send me that recording, that would be epic. And dude, thanks so much for taking the time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.